Exposed Vegan Media Podcast. I am your host, Jaja Porter, a wife, mom, triathlete, and vegan chef. On this channel, you'll experience my ongoing docuseries capturing my swim, bike, run, and nutrition journey featuring all the people I interact with along the way.
Okay, we are at episode 5. This is a podcast brought to you by Exposed Vegan Media. And I am so excited for today's episode to talk about something that I haven't done before, and that is the London Marathon. I'm excited to bring to you 2 athletes from a group I have the pleasure and honor of being a part of. It is called Team Takedown. And admin could not be here today, but she sent me some amazing athletes. And we're going to talk about what happened, what's their why, and how they got started with marathons. So let's get into it. First, I'd like to start with introducing them, and then I'm going to ask them to tell you about their why. So, Aliya, if I said your name correctly, can you please share with our audience what's your why? I mean, why do you run?
Oh, that's such a loaded question, isn't it? Because some days when you wake up, you're like, why am I doing this again after so many miles? I actually think that running is great therapy. When I'm out there, it's the only time when I don't hear the question, honey, do you know where my socks are? Babe, have you seen my watch? Mom, are you going to have time to take me to track practice? Who's taking me to my dentist appointment? I mean, literally, I have those thoughts when I'm out there on the trail or out on the streets, and it's just me and my music. I recently just started running without music. I did the Tokyo Marathon. That was the first time that I did the entire 26.2 miles without music, something I thought that I'd never be able to do. So I am a runner with music. But that's my why. It's just me. It's me and God. It's me in prayer. It's for me. And I started for health reasons. The journey has been long and arduous because there's been injuries and lots of challenges uphill and downhill. But that's my why. It's me, nature, God, my alone time, and it's me for me.
Girl, we share that in common. In my mind, I'm like, I get out, I do it to get out the house, away from the kids. And I love my 3 children
Oh
dearly.
yeah.
I mean, because they are
Oh yeah.
listeners. And I care for my grandmother who is 89 years old, and I do love her. She is the matriarch of our family.
Yes.
But whoo,
We
I
do
get
have a
out.
lot in common.
Yes, we could talk about that too. But I get out just to get away from it all and have time to myself, and I find it very therapeutic. As painful sometimes as those miles may be, I feel good about spending that alone, quiet time so that I can stay healthy to take care of them. So I'm glad we have that in common, and thank you for sharing your why. We're going to pass it over to Duane. Nice to meet you. And please share
Oh,
with us your why. Why do you run? Why do you do this?
well, it started. I used to coach for several years, but I would have to agree and concur with Aaliyah. It's a mental health piece for me. It just grounds me. I was a high school principal for about 12 years. I moved down to middle school. So there's so much that goes on. It's almost like being in a conundrum all the time. Credits. Students need this, teachers need that. And so I needed something to untangle the wires, so to speak, and give me happy feelings. So running started about 10 years ago for me. So therapeutic. It's a part of Black men's mental health. And so that's my why. I just find it to be a place where I don't have to worry. I don't have to have any anxiety. And nobody's disturbing me for that time, whether it be a 2-hour training run, if it's a 45-minute training run, whatever that time consists of, it's a time where it's just me, myself, and I. And if I want to turn on devotional music or whatever, it's just a time where I really enjoy that and I reground myself.
Okay, so we have a lot in common. So I can't wait to get into this conversation. Because sometimes I wonder, should I just pay for therapy? Or maybe I should do both because these fees are getting expensive. Um, but with that, thank you for sharing your why and that you do it for yourself. It is such a great mental health piece. But is there anyone that inspires you to run, or do you have a accountability partner, or just talk to me a little bit about that, Duane? We're going to go back to you. Let's go back to you.
Well, for me, it was just we went to church camp one summer with the youth, and we were taking the harnesses back up from the zip line. And so the youth pastor and I said, hey, man, we got to run this back up so the next people can go as soon as possible. We were very winded at the time when we were jogging back up to take the harness back. And so we said to ourselves, when we get back to Arkansas, we got to do something to get ourselves physically fit. And so my partner, accountability partner at that time, was Stephen Bell. And so he started before me. I started looking at his Facebook posts. He was running 2 miles in the morning. Then it increased to 3 miles, 5 miles. I said, hey, Bell, you're supposed to let me know. He said, man, I jumped right in. And so I started vacillating with the idea of when am I going to join him? And the next question was, what time of day do you run? And he said, well, I start at 5:15 a.m. And that was a deal breaker for me. But because we had already been kind of accountability partners studying the word anyway, I just said, why not, and do something out of my comfort zone. And probably 2 weeks later, we began to run, but the fellowship that we had after the run increased greatly. And so it was just after that, I mean, about 6 months in, I was hooked, feeling better. The fellowship was great. And so after Stephen Bell was my accountability partner, I joined Black Men Run. And so there's group runs each week. And so I just started getting very engroused in that running aspect of my life. And then I began to not only become accountable to the group, but then I began to become competitive and setting goals. So now it's like, we have to beat ourselves or that PR, whatever it is we're after. So now my accountability partner is myself. But here, thank God, my wife has been running now for about a year. She did her first half marathon in March. So now we're kind of accountable to each other because she may say, hey, are you running? And I may say, oh, are you running? And so now my accountability room has changed somewhat. So I'm thankful for that. Because 7 years ago, she would have cursed me if I asked her to run.
That's awesome. One, there's something about, I am my brother's keeper. Let me go out there. Don't want to leave them by themselves. And then if there's already an established fellowship, it makes it very easy for you to join. But then I also work out with my husband, though he is overseas right now. And whenever he's home, it's always like, are you getting on your bike? Are you getting to the pool? Are we running? I appreciate either him asking me, and I know he does the same, like, all right, let's get this in, because, having that person that pushes you, because you could easily roll right over. But knowing there's that one that you either want to go out and meet, or, people that remind you of your goals, or just having your partner there is something that, definitely motivates me. Aliya, why don't you also share with us, does anybody inspire you, or do you have accountability partners?
I love this question. And I piggyback as well. It takes a village. I tell my husband that he is the best and the worst accountability partner ever. Spectating is a sport, and I've learned that. He cycles, he's had several knee surgeries from high school sports and trying to carry it on all the way up until adulthood. So he no longer runs. He did run track in high school. I hated track in high school. And so I am one who picked up the sport later in life as an adult. But he cycles and he is at the finish line for me. And I have learned, because I've come to see him at some of his cycling competitions, and it is not fun to spectate. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep it real. Trying to get to all these different checkpoints and be, the life wife. Here I am with your Gatorade. Hello. Yes, no. So when he's there to support, a couple times he's left the recorder on, and I heard the behind the scenes commentary. That was very comical. So I know what he really thinks when I don't hit PRs at races, especially and I'm in Michigan. So, and running all year sport in the winter. So that is funny. So he's the best and the worst, supporter. But that's good because, like you were saying, Jaja, it helps me. It pushes me to that goal. Also, my grandmother, she did suffer a stroke a few years ago. Before that, she was at every competition, every race that I did at the finish line. And knowing that there are people waiting for you at the finish line, it is a motivator. My 13-year-old son, when it is training season, he is very conscious of, he's my nutrition coach. What are you eating, Mom? Don't we have a race coming up? And so it is so funny in our house. It is a village and it takes an entire team. And I also have this hashtag on my public page that says hashtag thank you for being my accountability partner. In 2012, I started a nonprofit called STAR, Sisters Taking Action, Reversing Statistics. And it is just for women, particularly women of color, to get you moving, get you off the couch, because I found that many women, many sisters were like myself, that we were putting the family, all these people and matriarchs that we named, whether we're running them to appointments, running the kids to doctor appointments, to their track meets, to their sporting events, lacrosse and baseball and football, we had put ourselves on the back burner. And whether it was weight gain or not being conscious of what you were eating and what you were doing to your own health, nutrition, and fitness, we needed to remind ourselves that we were important. And if the mom and the wife was not healthy, the house wasn't healthy nor happy. And so all of this came together by putting the message out there and helping these women to move. Everybody may not be a runner, may not be fast, may not be swift, but just moving a little bit every day makes a difference. And so when you put that message out there, that message comes back to you when you become stagnant. And that's really important for me, because while I was trying to motivate them, they are really motivating me all the time. And so thank you for being my accountability partner is a hashtag that I use often, because they deposit into me so much, and it's so important for those full circle moments.
I love that. And for those that are listening, I'll make sure that we get the information and put it in the comments for you to share. And I think we should also share about Black Men Run for any Black man that's out there, or men of color that wants to get started and needs a community. I'm fully aware of that community. My husband is a part of Black Men Run, and I'm a big fan. And before we get into the next question, I will say I am the worst cheerleader and Sherpa. Um, I would much rather just race with you and suffer with you, because the technology of like, where are you at, what mile marker, and I'm just tired, and I just feel like I should have just raced it versus looking for you on the course. Even if you're faster than me, just go take a shower and come back and get me, because I can't be at the all over the course. First of all, I'm a worst navigator. So what avenue and street in this? And I lived in New York City and California, and and I'm going out of the country, and then I don't like to cheer, so I'd rather race with you. I also have a hashtag Team Porter, which is my family. I appreciate my kids and my husband that come out to cheer for me, because I don't want to do it. And I'm really debating, and my husband's going to listen to this one, because he decided that he's going to do 2 triathlons this year. And I'm like, do I go and cheer for him, or do I race? Because I can't see myself looking for him on the course. So I'm really wrestling with that right now. Do I just register? Because it seems so much easier to be on the course with him than to make signs and try to find him on the bike course and run course. Like, I'm horrible. I don't want to do that. So shout out to all the cheerleaders, all the squads that, we appreciate y'all, because there's some of us that are horrible at it. And that's why everybody has a role and a purpose. But let's get into how many marathons have you all done? And then let's get into the topic of London. How did you get started with that, and where did the bid come from? We'll go back to you, Aliya. How many marathons, and why London? How did you even get established with that?
I've completed 6 marathons and never had a desire to ever want to do. I said I would never do one. I laughed at everybody that told me I would. I still don't really know how I'm here. Heather King, she posted. Everybody laugh. Duane's nodding his head. Yes, Heather, thumbs up. Everybody's not. Yes. And so, fun fact: we have never met in person. The power of social media, right? So she posted, and I was just like, "What is this?" But on a serious note, right? Representation matters, and
Absolutely.
we're out here in these races, and you're the only melanin, for miles and miles and miles, and it's daunting, and it can break your spirit. And I don't say that to be offensive, like, to anyone. And if you know, I'll say that. But to walk into a room and to feel threatened or imposter syndrome is real, and so it's no different than being out in this field, right? And I was like, what is this? What is this world major thing? And what is this? And this Black woman in Antarctica. And, it was thrilling. It was empowering. And it was just high five to this sister doing this amazing feat. That's how it started. And then it was, oh, and you can too. And it was like, oh, no, I'm just giving you your flowers. I'm just giving you a high five. And then before I knew it, I don't even know I don't even know how I'm here. And I don't get it. But here I am, and I ran for charity. I've lost both my parents to health-related illnesses. Again, going back to my nonprofit, and that's what this stems from. I'm very passionate about getting our people moving, about making them aware of the health-related illnesses that they can prevent just from getting up and moving. So when it comes to charity, and when it comes to charity and fundraising for anything that's health related, I am an advocate, and that excites me. So and I'm also an educator, similar to Duane. So I can't believe, like, the synergy that's happening today. I've been in education for over 20 years. So I had a charity bib for a Chance for Childhood, and that was just amazing for me. I loved my charity. So it was raising funds for children in Africa. And it is a desire of mine to one day visit Africa and to actually support this cause, boots on the ground. So I've talked to them about that, and I'm very excited. I have a sorority sister. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha who does that work annually. So yeah, so that was London for me.
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear more about that. And that might be just a whole nother message, but thank you for sharing. Duane, we're going to hand it over to you. How many and why London? How did you get the bid? How did that start?
London was number 37 for me, marathon number 37. So much like Aliya, I had run Little Rock Marathon twice. It's our hometown marathon because of the size of the medal, it's plate size medal. And so this is 2014. So 2015, 2016, admin Heather King is making this fuss about, hey, we're going to sell out Georgia Publix with African-American runners. So when people from Arkansas came to Atlanta to see the running community, there's more Black people who run. It was just like a flashpoint for us. And we're like, hey, this thing is pretty big. It can be huge. And so that's when we started doing it. So when admin calls, we answer the call. We went to Anchorage, Alaska, not too long ago, a few years back. I think we took about 400 African Americans there. So just in the network of pacing different races, Marine Corps Marathon, I paced it for 3 years. I met the pace coordinator for Rome, hoping to do that next year. But I also got connected with Akram, who is the pace coordinator for London. So I put in an application, and they were looking to diversify and add more minorities. Still, there was only 6 African Americans who paced London out of 179. But that's kind of how I got there. I think it was strategic, and God putting the right people in the right place. And so, London was amazing. 60,000 who registered for it this year. I mean, and it was just jam-packed, but it was exhilarating. It was a challenging race to pace because you're having to weave in and out to make sure that you make time for those who are trying to PR at that time that you're pacing. So I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed and appreciate those folk who made it happen for me, because it could have been a lottery or something else. but it just seemed like a seamless process for the people that were looking for people that look like us this year for the pacing.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to get into that a little bit. Like, what did it feel like, traveling to London? And once you landed, what was well, I'm going to put it back to you, doing what was your first thoughts just arriving there in London, if you could bring yourself back?
Arriving there this time, it was much better. I've traveled with my wife this time. Last September, I was in Berlin, which felt totally different. I was anxious because I knew there was not going to be as many English speaking people. So travel in Germany was much different. When I arrived in London, we were also meeting a classmate who was participating. She was going to be running. So we had some sense of comfortability because we were meeting up with people that we knew would be there. And then also because of there would be no language barrier. And plus, when you're traveling with family, that's always something to put you at ease. So this time arriving at London, I felt a sense of pride because I was not alone. I was with my spouse. And so when we landed, it was just a sense of accomplishment even before the race. So that's what it felt like.
Elia, how about you?
I also traveled with my spouse, and this was the first time that he had done one of the out of country experiences with me. So while I was excited, I was a bit apprehensive, I'll be honest, because if anyone who is a runner, this may sound weird to a non runner, like, what is the apprehension about? But it's a game day ritual. It's people are like, oh, you're traveling, you're going out of the country. No, no, it's strategic. You got to get your mind in the game. You got to set your clothes out. You're doing a shakeout run. It's a whole different type of experience. We're not just, yes, we're doing sightseeing. And then for me, I was traveling on an injury. I had a hamstring injury. I had been in PT for 2 months, and even though this is the longest race of all of the majors, world majors, not to exclude people, it's six, and these are the big guns, and you want to come home with the star. I wanted to come home, get to the finish line, and it was a mission to be accomplished. And so it is a long time you have to finish, but I was on an injury and the hamstring just wasn't being nice to me. And so I didn't know what was going to happen. So it was yeah, it wasn't all rainbows and whistles for me. I have been cleared by my PT because I am big on health. I'm not one of those go injured, just go push through pain. That's not where I'm going with this. My PT had cleared me. I didn't trust that it was going to be great. I got a second opinion. Second opinion cleared me. 1 week before takeoff time, PT says, I don't think you should go. I said, when I had time to defer to next year, which was weeks ago, you told me I was good. My hotel is, and I was just like, so yeah, feelings weren't great. And I was feeling it was a little different feeling for me.
I need to back up because I missed a question for those who are looking to get into the marathon space. Dwayne, maybe you can share, like, what was your training like, and what was it like trying to prepare for London?
Yeah, so in the midst of work and just different events, uh, you really have to stick to a training regimen. Otherwise, how you perform will be impacted greatly. And so, knowing that we were going to London, I was thankful for the pace coordinator sending out things because, in the midst of a race that's that far out, as you're training months in advance, people are going to races where they're competing, 5Ks, 10Ks, whatever. But I knew that this race was the biggest race I've yet to run. And so I made sure I was not in that competitive mindset to go and risk not being able to perform to my capacity for those who would be looking to run the 5 hour, 15-minute pace. So I was just kind of mindful of that on the front end, but then you have this urge to want to compete. Hey, this race has these perks and whatever. And I just had to remain disciplined because I know this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, not just to go, but to pace. So it was really being able to have some healthy boundaries around my training regimen and what I could and could not do, even with other small town races that we would normally participate in. So that was the piece that I really had to have this balance to not upset the equilibrium, so to speak.
And let's just be honest. Like, we know that we're going there to represent us.
Oh, no
And
doubt.
so that's also in our mind, like, let's
Yeah.
not embarrass the family.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Let's
Oh
take
yeah.
care of ourselves
Yeah.
because, we're asking folks to contribute to this. We're letting
Yeah.
them know about our training plan.
Yeah.
So after a while, it becomes no longer about you. It becomes about them. Like, we going to London. They may not have a ticket, but like, they feel that they're going with you.
Absolutely.
So there's those things that we have to add to our regimen to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And it's important. If you're listening and you don't add that to making sure that you're staying healthy, keeping what in mind, if that's the A race, we encourage you to do that because we know that once you start letting folks know that you're going somewhere that they've never been, they become a part of the journey and they
Yes.
feel that they're a big part of it. Because I felt like I was a part of the journey. Once I saw the picture and everybody went to London, I'm like, oh, I want to talk to people who went to London. I have never raced in London. I can't wait to hear about it. So I felt like I was there with you all. And so it's important to take care of yourself. So I'm glad you shared that, Duane. And then, Aliya, I'm going to hand it back to you because you kind of probed that question for me. What were you doing to make sure that you could attend? Because, you had your spouse going with you. You knew that Team Takedown was cheering for you.
Oh yeah.
Even though Heather hadn't met you, she was like, the cousins are going, the cousins are representing.
Oh yeah.
And so, what were you doing to make sure that you stayed healthy? And what was your training plan like?
And I thank you for that, Jaja. That is really important because the cousins and anybody that's following you and people that are supporting you, I was trying to be very diligent with saying thank you for supporting me, thank you for your prayers, thank you for contributing. I love your comment, as you should feel a part of this. I'm trying to send pictures because you are a part of this. Like, some people will never have the opportunity to travel to London. This is as close as they will get, and we want you to feel a part. And I carried a message when things got tough for me there. I was holding on to a text message that my sorority sister sent to me. You're one of the toughest people that I know. If your legs give out, your heart will not. And when I say that it played over and over again for many miles out on that course, I am not exaggerating. In terms of going back to your original question of preparing, I was with my PT. I was doing the exercises that they told me, and I was fighting. It's a fight because you want this, just like you said that, being on the sideline and being a spectator, that you're invested. You're invested. We give up a lot of sacrificial time and effort, and we thank our families too, because whether you're missing a Bible study or a day of work, I know sometimes you might have to, hope my boss doesn't listen to this, where you take a sick day for a long training run, right? And if she does listen to it, she knows that I've earned it. We make it up on the back end, but it's a lot of sacrifice that goes into training for a marathon, right? Where your spouse picks up and say, hey, can you pick up the kids today? Because I got an 18-miler, or I have a 9-miler, or a 10-miler. You're doing what you can. You wake up to a sheet of paper or a watch. It's 4 a.m.s, it's 5 a.m.s. Nobody wants to give that up. You have sacrificed and set so much aside to make this happen. So your team is invested, whether it's Stars, Team Takedown. One of the things, I can't remember, Crowd Booster or something like that in the app. And I had all of these messages from people that I don't know. So I was like, that must be from Team Takedown, or that must be, where they can send a message, good job, Aliya, or you're almost there. And so even reading those, I know people were crying, getting emotional, and, you just sit down, and those are the things. So we don't take that for granted. Like, we appreciate it because you need it. And when I say you need it, you need it. It's just not financial contribution to your charity, but it's the prayers, it's the messages. It takes a village.
I mean, it's the last couple of marathons. I don't know how many people I had in the tracker. And when I tell you I had cheers and my kids were like, who's running? I'm like, I don't know, but they made it. I was and then I think sometimes the anxiety for me, I'm not there, but I'm looking, I'm like, you're at mile 24.
Yes.
What is, I'm gonna, oh, Lord Jesus, help them. You praying for people that you haven't met, but they're the cousins and that they trained for it. and you're hearing about the weather, the conditions, and you're just hoping. And then you see the message, you're like, yes, they made it. I mean, we are there with you. We feel invested. And I know people feel like that about me with Ironman races and halves. And I have that in my mind. I'm like, Lord, I know there's 50 million people tracking. Let me keep moving and not get on this van and not let them come get me in this race because I know people are tracking me on so many pages. I don't know why I told them I was here, but let me keep moving because people are tracking me. But we become invested in each other, especially if we know that we can't do it. Then we're like, you know what, do it for me. I'm over here, and I'm just going to be tracking you like I'm there. So it does happen, and it's a wonderful motivator. But since you guys are talking about that, now let's go back to the corral. You're in there with all the people, and it's hype. What does that feel like? And then take me that first 3 miles going in, shaking it out. What does that feel like? Aliya, we'll go back to you.
Look, you got me excited. I'm like, yes, it was so hype, and it was a great segue going back to Team Takedown and social media, the WhatsApp group. So the cousins that you have never met before. So we do all of these. Hey, who's going to London? So we create these groups, and I was thinking about it. I was like, we had a cousin that paced. Why didn't I get to meet him? I was like so sad. And then after they posted like our cousin Duane paced, I'm like, yes.
You're excited for him. I never met him, but you're like, yes.
Right. And you hear him giving those stats. That's exactly why. 100 something out of 179. I mean, that is why representation matters, and it's so major for us to celebrate that. That's a huge milestone. So when they posted that picture, you should have seen. I'm like, yes, right. Because it's so huge. So we had met these people in social media, and we were who's in wave 3, who's in wave 7, who's in blue. So we had all met, and it was freezing, and so we were all huddled in this group, and we had a prayer. And then some of these you have met along the way, whether it's in Tokyo or Berlin, or if you're on the 50-state journey. So we had rallied and gathered, and we were standing there. The ones that left off sooner, we're giving hugs and we're cheering them on, and then we took off together. And it was great, because otherwise you would be all alone, in that 50,000, 60,000 crowd of folks you didn't know. So that was exciting. And for me personally, my first 13 miles, I was just like, yes. And I had prayed the night before, and I asked God, I was like, just give me, a nice, smooth takeoff. And in the end, I said, he gave me what I asked for. That's what I talked to my spouse about. So the first few miles was great. I was feeling good. And so I was happy. The crowd, electric, like nothing you've ever seen before. They're screaming. And it was so much so that I thought the race was over, but I'm going to pause because you only asked for 3 miles. So I don't want to. So first 3, amazing, excited. Our takeoff, the cousins, we had each other's back, and it was glorious. It was amazing. It was
That's
great.
Amazing. See, now I want to go to do the London Marathon. We're gonna have to talk about how I can get me a bib. But Duane, let's get over to you. How did it feel to be in the corral? You can do the first 3, the first 13. Just let us know, because you was pacing. So yes. Take us to what was going on there, because I've never paced before.
So the corral start was great. I met one of the members of Emancipated Run Crew. So they came to the race in Atlanta last October. So I was excited to see a member representing ERC, Emancipated Run Crew. So making that connection with some first timers, like, hey, what are you going to be running? Are you going to do intervals? What are you doing? So actually being able to coach them and kind of ease the anxiety that they may have because it's their first race. And so just kind of giving them points and tips about how to approach the race. But the first 3 miles was really good because I ran into another one of the members of Emancipated Run Crew at mile 2. And so we ran pretty much for the next 17, 18 miles. And so those first 3 miles, as Mrs. Armstrong has stated, it was exhilarating. And it was that way the entire race. Chicago Marathon was the race that I had put at the top of the list because of the crowd participation, but London even more so than that, because you have people every mile, every kilometer of the way in this race that are rooting you on. And so if you had your name on, you'd be able to just yell your name as if they knew you. And so I had a guy named Ian that was running with me. And I mean, it just seemed like everybody sent out a mass message, cheer for Ian. And so it was just this euphoric feeling that we had because all of this support. And so then having to calm yourself down so that you can stay on pace because the crowd is really amping you up and gassing you up, so to speak. So I was just really excited, and my goal the entire time was to make sure that Ian got there on time and all these people were meeting their goals. So I was just thankful. First 3 miles was exhilarating.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. All right, Aliya, I'm going to take you back to your past 13 miles. Let's not talk about mile 24 or 20 because we know how that often feels. But let's just get to the rest of the and me being a marathoner, I know what that lasts. Where is the finish line? But take me through. Did you feel like it was electrifying the whole leading up to 20? Was there any pockets? And is there an area that I feel like admin said there seems to be a mile marker that's for us?
Oh yeah, mile 21 is the Run Dem crew. And my gosh. So Duane was comparing it to Chicago. I compared it to New York. New York was my top in terms of crowd. And Run Dem crew just set it out. I mean, it was just plastered all on the ground. They had spray painted and I had come in. My husband was at 18. And so I saw him, and, to see a relative, you're out of the country. I'm not used to seeing him. And so I saw him and I'm waving. The crowd is so amped up. Like he said, they're cheering for people that it was people that jumped over the fences. Like they're waving at me like they knew me more than my husband knew me. Just to give you an example, I will never forget that story. So he couldn't even see me because they're like, here comes Aliya. Like, oh, she's right there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. And so when you get to 21, the family, it's like the family reunion. They are all there and they're welcoming you, and they took photos and they gave you free photos. And it was just, I mean, it's indescribable. You have to experience it yourself, but it was so amazing. And they had the megaphones, and I actually took pictures of them. And because of my injury, I just really had to stay focused. But I had to get photos of them because it's like, here comes Lil Lucky. You guys remember Poetic Justice? And they were like, here comes Lil Lucky. And they were there. I was just, I mean, it was, yeah, I have no words. I'm really speechless for what you experienced and how they embraced you. And it was amazing. And I needed it for the pain that I was experiencing and the discomfort. Because at mile 19, the hamstring had really locked up and shut down, and I just didn't have much more to give. And so I know you said that, but at mile 22, so everyone was giving you food, and things got hazy for me because it was in my hip, and the whole left side had stopped functioning for me. So my right side was doing all of the work at this point, and I just said, wow. I texted my husband. He didn't respond. And so there were so many people in the crowd. And so he says in his amazing, wonderful accent, do you need a cuddle? Do you need a cuddle? And I said, no, I need a banana. I'm dizzy. I'm struggling. And he said, come here. And he had these marshmallow jelly bean type things. And you don't want to try anything new. Everybody knows that on race day, you don't want snacks but that's how bad it was. So I ate these little marshmallow snacks and I just said, oh my gosh. And so I'm stretching and it's hazy. It's just all bad. And he said, you have 2 miles to go. And it's the best part. You hit now everybody, it's a little girl yelling, just 24 more miles, just 24 more miles. This was early on in the race. All the things you don't want to hear. This was the first time that I felt, he said, it's around the corner, up the hill, you turn and it's a straightaway. Like it was the first time someone gave exactly what was left. He said, and it's the best part. it's Big Ben. It's Big Ben around the corner. And so I'm just like laying on that fence trying to stretch. But at this point, stretching isn't doing anything. The whole left side is not even mobile anymore. It's not functioning. And so I think, but I'm not even sure, that he's rubbing my back. And so it's four of them. And so the lady, and they're like, you got it. You got it. You got it. And so I look up, and then I reach my arms out. He said, yes, it's a cuddle. It's a cuddle. And he hugs me so tight. And then all of them are like, cuddle, 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 cuddle. And so then I'm just like, and so I take off and they're all clapping. But that just goes to show you like the energy that was happening there. And so I'm just like, you got to walk very slow. Don't get dizzy again. Like just, pace yourself. But that energy, and somebody said those were your angels. But from there, I was able to finish. I even got a little bit of a hustle back to get through those last 2 miles. So that was my 24. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, Duane, take us there. What was it like to get past that 13? And when you saw the family, how did you feel, especially pacing?
Oh man, I love the analogy that Aliya gave. You look, cousin Lucky, like you family, ain't you? And so I can remember just in that area where they were, the street was painted, but they were actually having a party. It was a party on the pavement, and I remember seeing the Emancipated Run Crew about mile 18 as well. And so these were just, when you're running solo or not for a specific cause, it's like at mile 18 for me, particularly when I was at Georgia Publix, I'm like, why am I running this race? Because it's so hilly and challenging. But this race in particular was Ian again. He's right here on my right shoulder. He says, this is the farthest I've ever run before. I said, you're doing good. Just relax. How you feeling? So during this time, I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about Ian finishing and the other people that were with me. So just really trying to coach him through it. And just, so we got to mile 22. Oh man, this is the farthest distance I've run to date. And he was doing great. So this entire time, I'm just trying to stay focused on meeting the goal. We don't want to come in at 5:15. We don't want to come in at 5:15:30. We want to come in at 5:14 and some change. And so during this time, I'm just like, cause I feel for Aliya because I know that because the crowd was so thick the entire way. And so trying to make time, I'm having to weave in and out of people because it's not the running etiquette you have when you're here in the States. You raise your hand, I'm about to walk. So we're having to weave in and out. And so I'm looking back and letting everybody know, hey, I'm going to have to dash here. I'm going to have to zigzag. And so you're looking for your people that's in your crew. And so that put more strain on my quads than what I'm accustomed to. So at the end of the race, my wife is like, Duane, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. I'm just kind of like, my muscles are locked up. But I would say through those miles, I mean, it was still exhilarating because the crowd participation, there was not anything like it in respects to the encouragement, the adulation, the exhortation, and all of that. So I'll just say, man, it's second to none of my experiences to date.
So you all are London Marathon finishers. Aliya, how does that feel? And I know we've been talking about it, but would you recommend it to anybody? Like, how does it feel? And what would you say to others that have never done it, especially for me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hands down, get in line, sign up. Absolutely. I said I would, my only regret is not being 100% healthy. I feel that's the only cheat that took place for me, to not experience it as a whole healthy human, because I wanted to just eat everything up. It was just amazing. So I said it was my worst finish, but my best experience ever.
Duane, how about you? London Marathon finisher. Would you
Yes.
recommend that experience for anybody?
Yes, I recommend it to anybody who's even teeter-tottering with the idea. Sign up if you have to go through a charity, whatever that may be. Even if you're interested, I hear you say that you are a triathlete with that expertise and background. I would even say if you're interested in pacing, sign up to be a pacer. Put in that application. I feel like the experience It's definitely worth the travel, the time, the training. It's all worth it because what you will take away from it is lifelong memories, in particular with the people you run into. I also ran into another cousin on the course, Ja Richards. I think she's from the Connecticut area. So saw her out there. She was kind of struggling with her. I don't know if it was an ankle or hamstring as well, but she said, when I came by, I said, hey, Ja, what's up? She said, you don't know this, but you gave me energy. And so that's just the camaraderie we have when we're out there and we see the melanin, we see somebody that looks like us. It's always love, it's always adulation and camaraderie. So indeed, sign up. And you know, people can always say, hey, supporting you and going whatever it takes to get there. Make sure you don't say, I wish I would have or I could have. Definitely.
Yeah, I was always wondering, and it was electrifying just tracking you all and seeing the stories afterwards, which is why I wanted to have this amazing conversation. So I thank you. Before we conclude, what's next now that you've done London? Aliya, what are you doing after this? Are you done or are we moving on to something else? What's happening?
I'm healing. I'm not done. I want to get all healed up, and then Boston is the last of my world majors to complete. And then maybe I'll move back to finishing my 50 states where I was supposed to be instead of being here. Yes.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're going to wish you the best and we're going to keep following because we know that you're going to get healed up and get to Boston. And I look forward to tracking you and crying and yelling at my tracker about where you are on the course and having this conversation about how Boston was for you. So I look forward to hearing from you on that one. Duane, what's next for you?
I really don't know. My body's pretty beat up right now. I just did a 5K yesterday here in our neighborhood, but I'm going to heal and let my body do some restoration and just be prayerful about next steps. I do want to do Tokyo next, which is a larger race. I would love to do Tokyo next as a major event, but just some local races. Definitely going to support Atlanta, Georgia, the race every year. So we traveling local here in the States. We do have some Black Men Run race series. We got Mount Rainier. I'm probably going to be going to the Baltimore Running Festival, which is a East Coast meetup. So I'll be going to that. So yeah, that's the next thing. Of course, just the local races that I consider local. Well, the Cousins meetup in Atlanta. So those are the next pieces.
Well, I look forward to meeting you both at a family reunion. I seem to dip in and out, but when you see me yelling and cheering, and especially if you do another world major or even a local race, I would love to talk about it just so we can get our family off the couch and just talk about, what it was like being on the course. But I thank you for joining me to Expose Vegan Media. I can't wait to share this with everyone. And now I got to go figure out how I'm going to get on the London Marathon because y'all done sold me. I got to figure out how many cousins I'm going to get to join me to have, a time in London because it sounded like amazing. And I don't want to go to cheer for nobody because I'm horrible at it. So now I got to go. And when you hear from my husband, like, thanks a lot, it came from y'all because he's going to hear this and we're probably going to talk about London. So thank you both. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to hearing from you and following your journey.
Thanks, Jasha.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Exposed Vegan Media. If you like this episode, please share it with others and subscribe. We look forward to sharing more information with you.